everyone, this is Lisa from TRW, and in this video I'm going to show you my favorite font to use when etching champagne flutes. So this is a really cool, fun project that you can do for one-offs, but also different special events and group orders. Okay, so I am in Silhouette Studio. We're going to set up my font for glass etching. So let's go ahead and get rid of this logo, and I am going to type out my name. So this is for Emily, and I'm going to go ahead and you can see that I have my green box here. So don't forget, when you have a green box around your text, that means you are in text edit mode. That means you can change your font, retype it, all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to take my mouse, bring it over, so all of my text is selected now, and I'm going to go over to the right side of my screen and click this button here. So the text style panel lets you alter the style of the text, for lack of better words, and so this is where we change the font. So what I am using is actually a font that I bought a while ago called Lavendaria. The reason why I like using this font is it has a really nice, elegant, script look to it, but if you look at it closely after I'm done, it has straight lines. It's really easy to weed, and it gives me a good etch with glass etching. So you can see we have it right here. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're using fonts is a lot of times there are different styles to it. You can have a bold, an underline, all of that. So this one does have different styles to it. I'm going to hit this arrow right here, and you can see sometimes you'll get this default, and you can see it went away, but I couldn't get anything, so I'm going to click off of the font and then click on my fonts again right there. And once I click on this arrow, now you can see my different styles of the font. So a weird little quirk, if that ever happens to you and you know there are different styles, or if you get that message that says default, just go ahead, click off of it, and come back. So I'm going to use Sturdy, which is pretty much bold, and we have our font right here. Now, another reason why I like this font is that the default size that it's typed, the 72 point, is perfect for my champagne flutes. So I'm going to go ahead, take my font. All I have to do is weld it by going to this button up here, weld, and then I want to make this all one big object. So I'm just going to right click and make compound path. And now I'm just going to go ahead, color that in so you can see it, and now there is my font. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I want to make my weeding box around my design bigger than I think I need it. So the way that glass etching works is that any area of the glass that is exposed to the etching compound will be etched. It takes the coating off of the glass, which is what makes it permanent. So what we're doing is we're making a stencil so that the only part exposed is this word. Now, that's why we need it to be bigger, to cover up and protect the rest of the glass around it. So we're going to go over to our rectangle, go ahead, draw a decently sized rectangle, and then I'm just going to go over, highlight both of them, and then click this button right here to center each on each other. So now I'm all set to go. I'm going to go ahead and load my scrap vinyl onto my cutting mat and load it into the machine. So one thing to keep in mind is you want to make sure you have your cutting mat selected. You can see my cutting mat is around here. If you don't have it selected, go to your page setup over here at the top of the right panel, and right here under cutting mat, choose Cameo. So we're all set there. I'm going to go over to my Ascend panel. Now, I have programmed my own custom cut settings. You guys know that's something that I like to do, and I always encourage you to do. So we have our cut settings for FDC vinyl in here. So I'm going to link below my video on how to cut FDC vinyl. The biggest thing I suggest is make sure you're always doing your test cuts. So we're using a scrap piece of vinyl. So I'm going to load it in, cut it, and then I will see you after. All right, so here's my cutting mat. Let's go ahead, take the blue cover off. And we're going to go ahead and take our design, or not my design, I'm sorry, my vinyl. Let's put it right back up on here. And again, I love doing glass etching because I can use a lot of the scrap vinyl that I have. Let's go ahead and turn on my machine. Now, if you look, my roller is over here, which means I was cutting something 12 inches without a cutting mat earlier. I'm going to go ahead, drop this down, and then bring this to unlock it. And then we're good right there. So we're going to bring that shut, make sure we can't move that, and then we're all set with our roller. So this is the same process we're used to with cutting other material. Load it up against your roller, press load, and then you're all set. So you saw my cut settings earlier. I'm going to go ahead, go to my software, and click send. Okay, so my cut is done. We're going to go ahead and unload this. Let me turn off my Cameo because I'm done cutting. We're just going to slide this back out of the way. So now we have our vinyl on here. We'll go ahead and peel it off our mat. And now we're ready to weed. So again, we're going to keep this box here and weed out what's on the inside. So I'm going to move the camera closer so you can see, and then I will weed. All right, so you can see this here. Sorry, my Cameo to the side. I have limited space now. So we're going to go over here and we're going to weed out the part that we want to stay, or we want etched, okay? So it's a little bit opposite than what you might be used to with your decals, where you're going to take out the inside, because remember, we're making a stencil. We're not making a decal. So you can see sometimes you'll get these little sections in here that want to come up. Just use your weeding tool to kind of hold down little parts of it while you lift, and then you should be totally fine. So you can see we have the bulk of the word, and we can get this little dot out of here. And now we have this all set right there. So I'm going to go ahead, trim this down a little bit closer. So we have this right here. I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of here. All right, so there is our stencil, and we're all set right there. So let me get these little pieces off my hand. Oops, I just turned on my desk lamp. Off my hand, and we're good with that. So I'm going to take my transfer tape. This is the R tape from our website. I'm going to go like this so I can kind of see how big of a piece of tape I need. And I'm putting this with the non-sticky side of the tape down first. I'm not putting the sticky side down, because that way I can kind of put it on top and gauge my size. All right, so let's bring that like that. And I'm just going to move all of this over to the side. We'll put our tape down right on here. And what I am using right now is this like rubber scraper that I have. This is left over from like a Mod Podge kit I bought probably like 10 years ago, if I'm being honest. But I've been really liking it. I like the flexibility it gives me, and just, I don't know, I think it's working out well. So that's what I was using. Of course, you can use any scraper you have. You can use your credit card. You can use a gift card. Who cares? Just something to smooth your tape down onto your vinyl. So now I'm ready to put it on my champagne flute. Now, one thing about this champagne flute is this bottom is glittered, as you can see. And what's cool about it is I actually used dishwasher safe Mod Podge right here. Let me see if it'll, yeah, there you go. Dishwasher safe. So you use it the way you would use Mod Podge, and the fact that you paint a layer of this on there, put glitter on, and repeat. So this is 2 layers, and then I did a layer of Mod Podge. So what I did is I actually just took a little bit of time one day and did a whole bunch of these, because the way that this is dishwasher safe is that it has to cure for about 28 days. It can't get wet for 28 days. But now that it has been 28 days, it can go in the dishwasher and everything. So it's a great item to offer your customers. It may take you a little bit more time to prep up front, but I think that's a huge value that you can give to them, rather than just a typical, you know, Mod Podge glitter glass. All right, so we have our name right here. Now you can put it down like this, or one thing that I really like to do is I'm going to take my name, put it upside down with the sticky part facing up, and now I'm going to take my glass and put it right on top like this so I can figure out my alignment. I'm going to drop it a little bit so the middle goes right on there. You can see it came up with it. And now whenever you press to glasses or you apply to glasses, you want to make sure you work from the middle out. This is going to give you the least amount of creasing and the least amount of bubbles. So one thing to keep in mind when you're applying to glasses and stuff like this is that, one, you want to make sure where your word is, that it's really smooth. But two, don't forget that this tape is kind of thick, so it may lift your vinyl up a little bit. So don't worry a whole lot about it being totally smooth, because the tape will do a little bit. So now I'm lifted my tape up, and I'm just going to keep on smoothing. So you can see with this one, I got a pretty good application off the start, which is a relief on my part. It's nice and smooth. You want to make sure you don't have any bubbling right here, because the etching cream will find its way through there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my etching cream and put down a paper towel to keep this safe. And now I'll show you how to put the etching cream on. So here's my glass. I have a paper towel down. And then here is my armor etch. Now I got this from the craft store. You can get it from a ton of different places, including Amazon. Some people also like using another brand called Etched. I suggest just using whichever one you have the best access to. I know some people really like either one. So hey, you can win either way. So this time I'm going to be using a paintbrush. Normally when I do etching cream, I use a little like plastic knife, but to be totally honest, I couldn't find one. So I'm using a paintbrush, but I still like doing it this way because I can get a lot of control with this too. So when you're doing your etching cream, you want to just make sure you're filling in all these spaces, but paying careful attention not to get your etching cream outside of this box, okay? So one thing to keep in mind is, especially towards the edge of your letters, you might miss like the corners, so just make sure you're really getting all the corners. And with etching cream, you can scrape off and put back in the bottle what you don't use. So use a pretty liberal amount and it'll kind of work its way from there. And again, this will etch the glass a little bit as soon as it touches it. So just be really careful when you're applying this and just make sure that you're not getting on your hands and touching the glass like I have done many, many times. Okay, and one thing that you can do is I like to look around the back of my glass like this, and this whole thing should look white. If you see little dark sections, that's a section that doesn't have etching cream. All right, so now we're gonna let this sit. Some people like to let it sit 5 minutes, some people like to set 30 minutes. Personally, I have not seen a huge difference between 5 minutes and 30 minutes. So you know me, I'm not gonna wait. So we're gonna let this sit 5 minutes and then we will be back. Hey Google, off. By the way, if you guys don't have Google Home, it's awesome. But honestly, guys, I kind of like Alexa a little bit more. Tell me in the comments, which one do you like more, Alexa or Google? I kind of like Alexa just because I use so many Amazon products that it's way more seamless, especially with my Audible account. So just a side note, now what I just did is I scraped off this extra etching cream over here. Let me kind of get this in focus for you guys. There you go. So I scraped that extra off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go rinse this off. So I'm not going to film that, but basically the etching cream deactivates when it gets wet. So you want to take this whole thing, dunk it under the water, run your water, and then use your hand to kind of get this out of here. Now when you're done, you can take off your vinyl and then dry it off. Now if you are done and you dry it and you see little white lines kind of on the edge of where your letters are, then that means you just have a tiny bit of etching cream still left in there. Just rinse it one more time and you're good. So I'm going to go rinse this off and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I rinsed it off and I left the vinyl on just so I could show you. So I'm just going to be really careful and kind of flip this over on the other side so I don't get more etching cream on this. We're going to go ahead, take this, and then we're going to go ahead and peel this off. Now you want to keep your paper towel nearby because you'll probably get a little bit more water that kind of got underneath your vinyl as you were rinsing it. Totally fine, just use it, wipe it off. And if your glass is still wet, it may look like it didn't etch. The etching shows up when you dry it off. So definitely just keep going, it should be fine. One thing to keep in mind is that you want to dry this off and kind of examine your glass before taking off your vinyl, because for some reason if you have it a little bit uneven, or you know, maybe you're trying to push the limit and only do like a minute and it needs a little bit more, then you still have that stencil down. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but like right here, like on the edges of the letters, there's a tiny bit of white there, which means my etching cream is still on there a little bit. So I'm going to have to rinse this off one more time, but check it out. Really cute etched champagne flute. This is great. I actually did this. I don't recommend doing it because it took so long, but I actually made custom ones of these at a New Year's party that I was at. People just came in, told me their name, and I made them a glass. Really, really cool, but it's great. This is a good thing to market to your bachelorette parties, special events, of course, weddings. So there we go. Let me see if you can see it. That is my etched champagne flute. I think it turned out really nice. I love using this font because it's really elegant looking, but it's easy to weed, it's easy to use. So a really fun project that you can do with your scrap vinyl and using it as a stencil for glass etching. So if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos.